Okay. Well, Chris, I can't see you or hear you, so I'm assuming you're still getting that set up.
Hello.
There you are.
Yep, getting set up here. We are. Let me get a light on real quick. All right. How's that?
Looks good.
Okay, and see, we've got a couple of people. Let me see if I can get the document open here.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let me see if I can open up the document.
Okay. And thank you for the turnaround time on this.
That's no problem. Okay. All right, now the fun thing is always finding it in here. Stephen, when did you send it? It was yesterday?
It was this morning at 8:35. Would have been
Okay.
7:35 your time.
That's it. Looking. Okay, got it. There we are. Always trying to look on the time zone thing is always fun. It's which time zone is it on?
Yep.
Okay, here we are. All right. I've got the document. Let's see if I can do a screen share with everybody. Okay, and
Yep, we're seeing it. Or at least I'm seeing it.
okay, good. You're not seeing it now?
Nope. Now I am.
Okay, there we are. All right, who all do we have with us today?
Hello,
So we've got Sarah Brote.
it's
We
Sarah
have,
B
Let me see if
yep.
I can.
without the skull makeup.
Okay, all right. I've got Brandon, Tennille, James, Andrew, Sarah. All right, so if anyone says anything and I don't hear them, make sure you speak up there. All right, I have the SDD here in front of me. Everyone's able to see the SDD.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I also see the Excel document that came with it, the traceability matrix, which is good. Let's get that up here. That was funny. So I was in my office today, and another individual actually asked me about traceability matrices. And I was saying, as a matter of fact, they all want to know what a HATA was. All right, so this has not been populated yet, or has it? Yeah, it has
So
not been populated.
let me explain that. Um, so the QAT team, which is my team, created the traceability matrix, and the other
Okay.
teams were supposed to put in the entities and then fill it out. That did not happen, so I had started to fill out, and so had other members of my team, the traceability matrix and put in the entities. And then we decided to change the format of the SDD. We initially had the matrix actually inside section 7 instead of just linked. When we took it out, it erased all the check marks that my team
Oh
had put
no.
in. So,
Okay.
which was not a lot.
All right. Do you have a legacy copy of it so you didn't lose all the data?
Yeah, we can go back into the revision history in Google Docs.
Okay, good.
We just did not have time before the deadline to go in on top of everything else
And
and to
Okay,
do
no
that
problem.
with.
So, but you do have the data, and you're not going to be going forward.
yeah, And we wanted to just make sure as far as,
Ultimately,
oh,
that is
sorry, go
actually
ahead,
the
Sarah.
responsibility of others. No, I was just going to say the other teams are going to handle that in the upcoming weeks because they were supposed to do it this past week and they just did not have.
Okay, no problem.
And we wanted to just make sure in terms of the
Right, and I just
format.
saw the note there. Sarah's trying.
Yeah, in terms of the format, we wanted to just make sure that this is pretty much what you were expecting. Now we need to be checking them off, but this is what you were looking for in terms of the requirements.
Yep. Something like this is perfect. Again, your primary, did you go into Ford at all on this?
We did not.
How far down does this go? Okay. You're not, okay, so this is all dead space after, okay. So that was my one point because I know we talked about in section 4. Section 4 was kind of on the edge of what was requirement based, and you also had some conditional. So just make sure you're focusing on section 3 for this, about doing section 4. And yes, this is Tennille's beautiful work. So, all right. So back to the document itself. And what format are you using for this, or what? I guess what? What format or what source is this?
So
really quick, just a question about.
Sorry.
Nope. Sorry about the matrix. Just sorry, really quick. We are doing section.
Yes, Sarah.
3, but not section 4.
No, don't worry about doing the traceability matrix. If you show me that you can do it for section 3, you don't need to do it for section 4 also. It's just not, it's not necessary.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay.
There's a difference between working smart and showing that you know how to work it.
Perfect. I like that.
And as Taylor, if you're not talking, it's always good to mute your mic. That way we don't get any feedback on you, unless you're wearing headphones.
Okay, for the SDD format, my group chose that as well. We looked through several. We found one that we really liked that lacked just some specificity in one area. We found another that we had more detail in that one area, section 5, that the other detail in.
Okay.
So we combined them, the sources saved both of them. The second one also had, we didn't include it in the a really great checklist for the different lines, Socratic method style questions that gets us to think about what we're including and why and what we may be missing.
Okay. That's good. So if again you're using 2 different formats or 2 different documents as your source template for this, just in section 1.4, make sure you specifically call it out and say, either source template, reference this, and reference this. That way, it's noted out specifically as to what the source template is for each of these. And that way someone knows where they're going back and forth to.
Yeah.
And I see you've got everything in here. In most cases, the purpose, your purpose is going to be, at least your 1.1 is going to be a regurgitation of what your SRS was for what the HATA is. And then the other purpose is going to be what the purpose of this document is. A lot of section 1 is probably going to be really regurgitation of what you had in the SRS. Going into the rest of this for section 3. Okay, so as you kind of get deep into this, did you just pull a lot of this directly across from the SRS, and now you're looking at just populating it at this point?
Yeah, so the assignment description said to go through and identify, do a
And that's
functional.
a question to the class if you're still muted.
Oh, I need to unmute. Sorry, I was muted. So the assignment description said that we needed to go through, at least for this initial version, and identify, do a functional decomposition, and identify all the top level entities and drive it down into smaller entities. And then next week, the goal was to try and organize those more into the layer approach that we had
Okay.
talked about.
Okay. And that's perfect. And that's because I was just noticing the hierarchical SRS. So it looked like a lot of this pulled across. I see the diagrams you had here, and you put proper figures underneath, so that's nice. Whose pencil drawings are these?
That was
These are Stevens.
That was the rudimentary prototype that I gave to the architecture team to start from. So, apparently my internet's freezing up.
So would it be a good idea then for the archer team this week to make those more official and finalized then?
Yes, that's. Hey Chris, I don't know if you can hear us. You seem to be frozen. Let me. Hey, did we lose you? Okay, your video froze. You were making
Right,
a.
can
Now
you
I
hear
can.
me at
You were
all?
making some comment about the design choices or the drawings, at least.
Okay, good. Everyone can hear me okay? Yeah, it was a odd thing. It froze up there for a moment. All right. No, I was just curious, who did the pencil drawings for the images?
And that was me. That was the initial designs that I gave to just some starting points for the architecture team to start considering. So.
Okay. I think you and I talked about, you have some people that are really good at traceability matrices, some people that are really good at design documents, some people really good at graphics. Your call as to how much you want to spend time on those. Just the only thing is, whenever you do drawings and schematics, there is somewhat of an art to that, and a lot of the art goes into not just drawing the image, but it goes into labeling and referencing the image. So make sure that you do spend the appropriate amount of time and resources on that. And if properly done, that could easily...
Sorry.
Sorry, someone was talking.
Someone
And
was
you mentioned
talking?
design docs.
Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned design docs. Are we supposed to have a design doc in there?
Huh?
I like
No,
doing
I'm
design
talking
docs.
about
That's why I'm like, what?
No, I'm talking about the design of these images. Whoever's going to be doing these images,
okay.
there's a level of specificity you do need to put in there inside this design document when you do a figure or graphic. And the one thing I would say, you go and look inside most of the reference documents, and there is a difference between a figure, an image, or a diagram. So what you're showing right here could be considered, like right now you're showing an image because you're showing a picture of something. You're also showing what looks like a flow diagram. Understand the difference though between diagram when actually you are labeling it.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see as we go down.
Okay, so then I know that
Yeah,
my
one
team.
second. I'm gonna mute my microphone for 1 moment.
Okay. Um,
And going into section 5, so tell me a little bit about your intent for section 5. You mentioned you did a hybrid where you pulled stuff from section 5 differently.
So initially, this template, the one that we used for the general structure and the larger framework, for section 5, it just kind of said, put whatever you like. If you're doing an object-oriented design, you can go this way. If you're doing like an architectural framework design, you can go this way, but do whatever you like. And my team and I kind of thought about it, and we're like, that is really not a great structure for our particular project. We want a template that breaks it out a little bit more. And we found another template that we thought broke it out in a way that was useful for our particular design. So we took the components of that section that correlated to the section 5 in the larger first document and put them into that section to help break it up.
Okay. And I mean, you've got a lot of stuff that looks like it's already pre-populated here. Was that pre-populated from the documents you pulled this from, or the templates you pulled this from, or you actually came up with this already?
We came up,
The, mm,
the other groups didn't quite have their work in the format that we needed it. And as you can see, they don't have everything for all of the sections yet. So what we did was we took their work and we went and we fit it into the format of section 5.
Okay. That's fine. And one thing I had noticed, because you spent a lot of time on the communication piece, and I think here's where the section where I saw it here. You've got service network communication, mobile network communication, Wi-Fi connection, mobile data connection. So, yeah, so there were times in which I just saw things kind of crossing over. Like here you had Wi-Fi connection here, and then Wi-Fi connection as its own standalone. And then mobile data connection and mobile network connection. And I was curious how you differentiated between. So just as you go through, make sure you are defining at least what each of these are.
yeah, there was some confusion across the document about functional descriptions of just requirements versus these are objects or systems that are being delegated responsibilities, right? And so those items need to be
Okay.
grouped and aggregated together.
Okay.
And
And
my
just in,
team, we did our best to make comments about that and to give feedback and to get some clarification. But if we couldn't tell, we just left it as is for this round. So
right. Just and understand the confusion that you may be experiencing just within your collaboration, with groups who are either on campus or disposed across a couple of states. You can imagine the confusion that occurs when you're dealing with someone who's, in another country when you're trying to do these designs. So I just sent a bunch of stuff down to Argentina, and again, you're dealing with this kind of confusion when you're discussing documents just even between geographies. So be prepared for that, and this is a good learning experience for you to kind of go through when you're trying to discuss this kind of merging. Good dad. That's spicy. Sorry, we're having a discussion, Marinade, here. All right, and The rest of this, and no, Neil, you do not get any. Right, yeah, and I like how you continued, you took this down even deeper here into this section. You don't need to go as deep. I like that. So 5.5.3.3.2.1.2.1.1. It's great to go this deep. Just kind of keep it, make sure you're spending the right amount of resources and effort on this. That's all. I don't want you to go too deep and spend time just doing busy work. I want you to prove to me that you know how to do this, but don't spend too much time that you're just doing busy work. Yes, Chuck is very detailed. That's what I like. And remember, when all else fails, you can take your section 6 or your section 2 and write some of your limitations and assumptions, like we are limited or assumed. Wow. I should hang on one sec. Okay, and we are back. And okay, so limitations of being due to time constraints. We identify top 5 level. Yes, that's appropriate. Put those limitations or those assumptions, and I will completely accept and appreciate that. That's part of why you put a limitation section in. Just so people know that this is why I only did this. Like I said, that's your limitations as you get out of the card.
So if the limitations were not in our SRS, like if we just identify other limitations and whatnot, are we able to put that in or no? Do we have to go back and modify the SRS?
Yes, you can.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
Inside the SDD, you can put your limitations in the SDD. Every document should have its own limitations or assumptions section. And I like the diagram. Thank you very much. Very nice graphic. Thank you very much. Yeah, and this again is why you have a good support staff. Having the graphic is nice. Thank you. There is, okay, and again, you just put an image in there. Now this, thank you, Sarah, this is where you actually make the comment of a image, number, and title. So just make sure you do, make sure you put that underneath this graphic. And who did this? Who did this image? Nice, Chuck. Very good job, Chuck. No, just me. And so I think that's to the end of this section and the appendices. Okay, and then in the appendices for section 8, that's where you're going to bring up, again, a lot of what you had in section 5 from the previous document. So I guess you can carry those pieces over and amend them in here as you need to. Any other questions? And if you're talking, you are muted.
I
Any
think that
questions?
just to make sure, I mean, we're driving this to completion, but there seems to be kind of a loose comparison between what the course assignment descriptions are versus us following kind of what the template is telling us to do. I mean, the template says fill it out this way. I mean, this version 0 was saying go in and fill out break down all the entities, and then version 1 says do one complete entity, but keep breaking down the entities. I mean, really, it's more of a how are we driving this particular template that we've chosen to completion. right? Filling out all the diagrams, making it consistent, and just driving that design, right? That's kind of the feel that I'm getting in terms of what we should be doing as a class.
Okay, now this is something we had the discussion in the pilot group today. There's what the assignment is, and then there's also the fact that you are adults, and you have an idea of what you want to do and how it should look. So I put a lot of that back to you as adults. You could either meet exactly what the class criteria is, but the class criteria made an assumption of the kind of assignments you would take. You've now picked your own template. You picked your own assignment or your own system you want to build. So I expect you to take some maturity in that and kind of blend and move it to what that requirement is. It may not be exactly what the assignment is, and it may not be exactly what another class would do, but it fits your project and your system, as well as the group that you have, because every editor is different, every submission group is different, every template is different. And I want you to have that maturity where you as a class can move and blend to make this hybrid, and that's completely along the lines of what you should be doing. If everyone submitted the same project, the same template, then there would only be one class, and the class would be about 110 students large. So this kind of flexibility and adaptability is very good for what you're doing.
Thank you.
So
I just wanted to make sure that we talked about that.
And the other instructors may. Yeah, and that again goes back into your assumptions and your limitation statements. Other instructors may be much more rigid. I'm more flexing with each group. If that was the case, then all of my development teams, all of my functional teams, they would give exactly the same document regardless of what we're building, and they would just be filling in the blanks. And that's not what happens here. This is a much more flexible project, so don't worry about it.
All right, I have a question, by the way.
Yes.
This is kind of a smaller one and something we could discuss among ourselves, but I figured I'd ask it while I have you here, about naming conventions for the entities and their components. If you look throughout Section 5, you'll notice that we had some inconsistency with that. So some were named directly following the standards of the SRS, and some were named more as if they were actual classes.
Yes.
Within an application.
Yeah.
If this were the real world, how would that play out?
Okay, if this were the real world, I would be naming everything in here based on the classes and objects that I would be using for the design document. And the description would include the plain language nomenclature from the SRS, and inside the SDD, I would use the technical object or the technical description, the technical object or the technical name that I would be using for the design side. In many different groups, between the SRS and the SDD, and that's where the objects and naming conventions start to come from the classes.
Okay.
So, and I see Steven's kind of saying that, on his side. Again, it really depends on the organization, especially if you have an architectural diagram, or an architectural statement that was put in here. That's usually where the naming convention starts at, and then that carries into the SDD when you're doing the design.
I'd hear some thoughts on it before we got too deep into the project and things got attached
Yes.
you know. So,
Yeah, it definitely, as long as you're consistent, that's what I would like to. Yeah, people fight for days over naming conventions. So pick it now and run with it. Yeah, in fact, we actually had a discussion today. We were discussing a ODBC and SQL system and why naming conventions were a certain way. I had a new guy join our team, and we were talking about naming conventions as to how we name tables, lookups, objects, and why some groups use underscores and some use no space. All right, any other questions?
I think that, does anyone have any others? I think that covers it. Unless anyone had any others.
Oh, yes. All right. Okay, we hit our 30 minutes, so I'm going to leave you with a quick 30-second thing from our pilot meeting this morning. We had a discussion about presentations. And most of your presentations have been very good. There's been a little difference between the presentations that have been given in my class and the presentations that are being done in the on-campus courses. So, apparently when you do a presentation on the on-campus course, they actually have to dress up nicely, and I don't know if they do suit and tie, but they said they have to dress nicely, comb their hair, and they stand at the lectern, and they talk about their presentation. And we were talking about what would happen in the class if you were asked to do that exactly the same thing. So, what one recommendation they had was, for the presentations from here forward, you're going to be asked to email me your slide deck and send me the slide deck of all of your content, and then you're going to be asked to videotape yourself delivering that content. And you'll simply say, I'm now going to talk waterfall and agile, next slide please, or slide 2. Then boom, 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 slide 3. Discussion more, slide 4. Now I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. Sarah's going to give her piece, and then Sarah's going to move on to John. John's going to pick it up, slide 8. So you're going to tell me when to change my slides, and you're going to, as if you were at a lectern. And I said, that will be interesting. We'll see how the students do that. So I had a classmate reduce my points in that class for not straightening my curly hair. Okay, I will not grade based on hairstyles, but I think the one reason that we were curious about this was most of you are 6 months away from finishing school and joining the workforce. And if that's the case, you're going to be presenting in front of groups all the time. So they wanted you having the ability to actually present in front of someone like me and those who are in industry to actually make comments about your presentations. And we'll go from there. I think that will be less effective in teaching and disseminating information, but it will help people learn how to present better. Stephen, I totally agree. This is not being done as much to teach people, it's being done to help you as the students prepare and present better. So I'm going to send this out in an email to everybody before your groups get going. And I hope this is something that is not too much of a lift for you, but this was just one of the things that we talked about in the pilot group today that we're probably going to change some of the grading and submission criteria for next semester's class. If there's any other questions, please say so now or
Thank
type
you very
it,
much.
and I will let you go for the evening. All right. I wish everyone a good night and have a great weekend. And how is the grading for that going to be done? I felt like being graded on outside things. No. I am not going to grade on how you dress, eye contact, or things like that. I'm grading on how well you present to the content. So don't worry about it, Matt. And Sarah,
Yeah.
you do not have to straighten your hair.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, we're done.
Okay, everybody,
care.
this is recorded. I'll post
Bye.
it on YouTube. Okay?